At 77 years old, former Marine Chuck Hoepfner is doing all he can to get around. Living in Cedar City, Hoepfner is considered 50% disabled due to serious health issues. Hoepfner has been diagnosed by doctors with radiation poisoning and problems associated with it from an explosion he witnessed while serving in the U.S. Marines.
I was 18 years old in 1957. And I was assigned to a unit called the Test Unit, Nuclear Test Unit, at Camp Pendleton.
It was here near Mercury at the Nevada testing site in 1957 where Chuck Hoepfner's life would change forever. Hoepfner was one of 60 soldiers chosen to board a bus late at night and sent to the Nevada test site.
The windows were blacked out, and we took off from Camp Pendleton to the Nevada test site.
Although this isn't the video from the actual occurrence, it gives one an idea of what the soldiers went through. After arriving in the early morning hours, Hoepfner and other soldiers were placed in open trenches, approximately 6 feet deep, dressed only in their dungarees and helmets.
We had no breathing devices. In our particular unit, we had no radiation badges either. They had run short.
Hoepfner and his platoon were selected to witness an explosion of the plumb bob series, which was the largest disbursement of radiation by all the tests at that site. This particular explosion was called the Boltzmann. It was detonated off of a 500-foot tower.
They had told us to just before it went off to kneel down in the trench and to protect your eyes. Even though they gave us black goggles, they told us to put our face down in the crotch of our arm here and lean against the front part of the trench. And when the flash went off, you could see the bone in your arm, just as clear as we're sitting here talking to each other.
With his back facing the explosion, Hoepfner said, then came the dirt and the dust, carrying radiation.
We were brushing each other off, and it was all of that was contaminated dirt, so we ingested part of it. Matter of fact, one of the doctors had noted for me that I have radiation scars in my lungs from the contamination and stuff and exposures.
Animals and test dummies were also part of the experiment and placed throughout the Nevada test site.
They put pigs outside the trenches in cages, and some of them they put actual dungarees on to see what happens to the material. Well, the pigs just got fried, that's all. I mean, they were decimated. But it was a horrific experience for a young man, I gotta tell you that.
Radiation exposure has an insidious effect which slowly attacks the soft tissue, then flexible bone structure, and finally hard skeletal bones in the end. Hoepfner now suffers with several disorders that some doctors have related to his radiation exposure.
But I've had bone problems, I've had different situations. I got peripheral neuropathy in both feet, both legs, which means I fall a lot.
He's had glaucoma surgery, prostate cancer, severe bladder problems, neuropathy in his feet and legs, heart and lung problems, as well as back issues. Married to his wife Dolores for 56 years, Chuck was never able to father any children. Hoepfner has also had 2 back surgeries. He attributes those to the atomic blast exposure to his back.
Well, we couldn't go to a doctor. We couldn't even go to the VA to tell us that we would tell them we had problems. I did. I tried to, and they puffed me off someplace. Said they don't handle radiation situations.
Information regarding these nuclear testing blasts was considered top secret until 1996, when the U.S. government pulled the secrecy doctrine. Hoepfner said the Veterans Administration wouldn't recognize he had radiation poisoning, let alone that he was even there.
No one ever in the VA has acknowledged radiation problems for me.
Therefore, he says it's been difficult to get treatment over the years.
All the veterans know that the VA lives under the doctrine, delay, deny, and die. That's what you're waiting for, one of those categories. They delay you till you're just... As a matter of fact, I had my final hearing a year ago, this past November. And I'm still waiting to hear about anything, hear if they'll take responsibility or whatever.
But doctors outside the VA agree Hoepfner suffers from radiation exposure problems, and it is well documented.
All of these conditions are due to a blast and radiation injuries which he suffered while in active duty.
He has files and files of documentation and proof going back in time, stating his ailments as well as the cause. However, Hoepfner's DD-214 discharge papers never recognized he was ever at the Nevada test sites.
There's no history of mine showing a nuclear explosion, and I have written people, I want that on my DD-214. I don't care if I die in the meantime. I want that because I was there.
Hoepfner says there's quite a bit of anguish involved in the government's denial, and while he loves the Marines, he faults the system that supports it.
They fall short somewhere along the line about, they pump a lot of good propaganda information that, oh, we take care of our guys. And well, if you've been watching the news at all, they were falsifying records and stuff at different places that guys couldn't even get in until they were next to death or dying, one of the two.
Hoepfner subscribes to a monthly publication known as the National Association of Atomic Veterans. The newsletter tracks veterans like him who have been exposed to radiation due to the military testing.
Survivors of those tests are dying at the rate of 1,000 a month. So, and I'm 77, so I'm on that threshold of people that aren't making it.
Hoepfner is not only fighting for recognition of his duty as a shadow warrior, but for proper compensation through disability pay for his continued pain and suffering. The VA has already denied his claims of compensating his wife as his caretaker. On special assignment, Melissa Anderson, KCSG.